podcast. And we have a super exciting guest today, especially for those of you that are in the financial services marketing arena. David Buzo has a host of experience in marketing leadership roles in companies like LPL, MetLife, and MassMutual. And currently, he's the Chief Marketing Officer of Independent Advisor Alliance, one of the largest networks of independent financial advisors. So I think he's going to have a lot to teach us today about marketing to the elusive FA, which there are many of and are a really high target, obviously, in the B2B marketing world. So super excited to get his insights. David, thanks so much for coming on the show, man.
Dylan, I am thrilled to be here, and I have to give a special shout out. Thank you to Neil Patel for you just had him on, and he was kind of my opener. So I want to give a special shout out to him for he's kind of the Strokes, and I'm the Red Hot Chili Peppers, I think.
Hey, no, everybody's equal on the ad. No, I love it, man. So hey, first thing I wanted to just mention to the audience. So yes, if you send me a hat, there is a chance I will wear it. So shout out to the High Alpha Hedge Fund boys. So thanks for the hat, appreciate it. And you can find my mailing address on the interwebs if you want to send me a hat. Anyways, all right. So David, let's jump into it. So I gave a brief bio, but do you want to knock out maybe some of the highlights as you kind of climb the ladder up to CMO of Independent Advisor Alliance?
Yeah. So I would say the most substantial role that I had to start off was being the director of marketing for the YMCA of Greater Charlotte here in Charlotte, North Carolina. And man, if you want to earn your marketing chops, go work at a nonprofit. Limited resources, a ton of responsibility, things to manage and balance and all that. Like you learn how to a certified GSD, just getting stuff done with all those limitations. But it was a fantastic experience. I loved every part of that. But I was ready to move on from there. And in 2013, so a little bit over a decade ago, joined MetLife, the MetLife Premier Client Group. So I was working with financial advisors. And I was completely outside of the industry. Like I came from the fitness background and then going to that. I mean, just between you and I, because this is a private conversation, the night before my first interview, I Googled, what does a financial advisor do? Like I had one, but I was like, I don't know. And I really appreciate my manager back then that he said, I wanted an expert marketer. I can teach the financial services side, but I can't teach marketing to a financial person, which had been attempted before. It's just not part of their DNA and how they think. So we launched.
The information flow only goes one direction.
Yeah, that is definitely true. So I was there for a couple of years, and then we're part of the acquisition with MassMutual, similar kind of role, launching their digital marketing program there. And the really cool thing that I'm really proud of in my career was the last 5.5 years at LPL Financial, creating and growing their marketing solutions program. So think of that like an in-house digital marketing agency for financial advisors to outsource their marketing needs to.
Wow, that's super cool. So basically you were part of building an in-house shop, and you guys essentially service your portfolio of independent advisors.
Yeah, yep. They would hire our team of marketing solutions, and we grew that from a pilot of 10 advisors in March of 2018 to last summer. I think there was more than 430 active advisors, and we're seeing how they grow and their feedback. And, that's what really gets you going is seeing the results from what you're doing on their behalf.
Yeah, that's really cool. So I have a little bit of experience with the LPL model. As I mentioned, when I worked for Keith Ferrazzi, I did some training for them. So I know you guys were the largest independent network of FAs. Generally, you would bring people over in the later stages of their career where they had built a great book of business and they no longer needed maybe some of the corporate structure of some of the bigger brokerage and wirehouses. And they wanted to essentially make more money by being independent, by taking their client over with them somewhere else. So, that's interesting because, I think about the type of broker or the type of FA that would sign up with LPL. they must have been pretty smart marketers, pretty savvy guys to have built their book over and even jump over to LPL. So what did the best FAs do from a marketing perspective as, personal brands?
It's interesting that you have that take, because a lot of it just happens organically from you'll hear them say 90% of my business comes from referrals, and it could be generational things, like somebody that's they've grown their wealth and then they're handing it down to their kids, and then their kids get older. So it could be something like that, or there's nothing more powerful than I know a guy, and you're talking to a friend or coworker or whatever, and a lot of it is referral marketing, which is a big part of why the marketing solutions group existed at LPL Financial. Was we're in a completely different age now. Like,
yeah,
I would present in front of advisors and at a conference and say, who went out to dinner last night? And they'd raise their hand and say, what did you do before you picked your restaurant? They're like, oh, I Googled it. It's like, sometimes I Googled it standing outside the restaurant to look at reviews and photos and menu. And I was like, yeah, that's where you're going to have like chicken parm, not who's going to help you retire or who's going to send your kids to college. Like, there's so much more to it than just, I got a referral. So a lot of referral growth, but those that are heavy in the marketing side, I know we're going to get into social media later on, but like being active and present, and overcoming any kind of like stereotype, I would say that in like a negative way, of what a financial advisor does, get them to know, like, and trust you. And you can do that through your website, through your social, through your email, and then ultimately getting them in front of you. So those advisors that are being successful, I see them investing a lot into marketing, not looking at marketing as an expense, but as an investment.
Yeah, no, I love that. And, it's funny, I get a fair amount of FA marketing. Either, they somehow get my email, they scrape it off LinkedIn. I'm also on the receiving side of a lot of people who've built large followings on social media. So there's a lot of FAs that are cold calling influencers through email, expecting that if they're influential, they probably have a decent chunk of money to manage. Most of those go in the trash, but I hired my FA because I went through a situation with an IPO and I completely had no idea what I was doing, and I ended up screwing it up pretty badly because I couldn't get the money out of the stock certificate and into a brokerage house, and I had like an E-Trade account, and nobody on customer service could help me, and I was like, okay, this is why you need like somebody that knows how to navigate that stuff. So I finally, at the ripe age of 42, learned my lesson. But what would you say to the typical millennial investor out there that is probably, I'm at the top of the spear in the millennial, 42. I'm the oldest millennial possible. We're kind of getting into that period of our life where we're looking to build wealth. But I feel like we also grew up in the digital age where we're like, oh, there's like all these apps to invest, and there's Robinhood, and I'm smarter than some guy, some stock picker. Like, I feel like a lot of millennials are, they think they can do it on their own. I don't know. I've had some success, some failures. But what do you think? What do you think is the biggest challenge to invest or to marketing to millennials that are digital savvy, that kind of came up in that era, who maybe think that they can do it on their own, or they don't trust like a sales guy?
Yeah. That's where I was alluding to, that stereotype and the lack of information. Like, even I was saying before my first interview at MetLife, Googling what a financial advisor does. And I think the stat is something like 1 out of 3 Americans has a financial advisor. And that doesn't line up with what our country's financial literacy level is. It's pretty low. And so there's definitely a need for it. But as we've grown up in this internet age, and I'm just a little bit under you, but still in that millennial era of, I'm just going to Google things and get my own information. I want to go find it. I don't want to be told it. And because financial advisors within our regulatory standards of what is allowed to be said or not allowed to be said, that there's a lot of information out there that people that are maybe not experienced or licensed or certified are able to give that information out. I mean, that whole great phenomenon of a couple years ago, and because I just watched on Netflix, about GameStop. And it was like, yeah, you can just get on Reddit and figure out how to beat the markets, and I can go and do this myself. That you've got to be where they live. So those millennials, like not physically, but what do they do? Where do they behave? You're not going to do a late night infomercial. I mean, I haven't had cable TV in like 15 years. So where are they? I'm on Instagram. I'm not really on Facebook much, but I'm on LinkedIn, and you want to get out in front of them and position yourself of what are those pain points that investor, what that person, that millennial, whatever they're trying to do. I want to grow wealth. I've got too much debt. I need financial planning assistance. My parents are get older. I want to talk about estate planning. Like there's so much a financial advisor can help in this holistic approach that finding that right one is so crucial. So that's where I think a lot of the business comes from, referrals. But then once you get that referral, like my parents gave me their tax person. And I was like, I need I've got a unique situation. I need a new tax person. And I was like, you guys have had the same one for like 15 years, right? And they're like, oh yeah, we love him. He's phenomenal. He tells us about charitable giving and blah, blah, blah. He's great. I was like, okay, cool. What's his name? They're like, it's like Dan or Doug or Tom. It's like, oh wow, you really love him. You don't even know his name. They send me they send me his contact card through my iPhone, and it says Doug Tax. I'm like, I don't think his last name is Tax. And I was like, guys, I to my parents, I want to do some research on this guy. Like, I'm not just gonna call. Who calls somebody? Like, I'm not a sociopath. I'm gonna do some research on him first. And he missed out on my business before we even talked because, and once I finally found out his last name, he didn't have a website, no social media, no anything. I'm like, I'm not calling this guy. So then I moved on to a different referral, which I've been very happy with. So it's that same journey for working with an advisor.
Yeah, no, I love that. And so what do you think about, I feel like there's still a little bit of kind of that old school, like, I don't like, again, I want to stay away from the stereotypes because there are a lot of really amazing FAs, and I'll talk more about ones that I think do things that are really amazing. But the interesting dynamic about my marriage is, I make the money and my wife invests it. And every time we talk to a financial person, they spend a lot of time focusing on me, even when I redirect them to my wife. And I tell them straight up, I'm like, hey, I make the money, my wife manages it. And then they still come back to me and they don't understand the dynamic. So what can FAs do better about like thinking about marketing to females, but also thinking about like, who's the quote unquote decision maker in the family?
Yeah. That is, hopefully that's dying out, but that is a little bit common. And I cannot remember the stat, but it was about the growing percentage of not only single women growing wealth, but like your situation, which you described as like, they're the ones handling things, either making financial decisions or managing budgets or whatever, but it instantly goes to, I'm going to talk to him. So it just like any other customer journey for whatever that you're selling, you're trying to get out in front of people, is understanding what those pain points are and talking directly to that audience of whatever that they're trying to figure out. So it can be as subtle things as like what your imagery and copy that you're using on your website or whatever, and also finding that niche market. I've worked with advisors in the past where I do a intake meeting, like a strategy session, learn more about them. What are your core values, your mission statement? And then let's talk about your target market. Who's your ideal person? And they're like, okay, this is going to blow your mind. I want to work with people who are going to retire. I'm like, oh, wow, that's literally everybody. Like, if that was a filter, like no results got eliminated. Like, I think that's everybody.
Yeah. Sounds like, who Wrigley told me their target market was one time?
What's that?
Anybody with a mouth.
There we go. And yeah, like not like you're going to turn away business, but you're going to know who your niche market is. That if it's um, teachers in Chicago, like, oh, I'm a master at 403B plans or whatever it is. So just talking directly to them and breaking down that barrier so that and like going to those stereotypes of you want to know, like, and trust them. So how can you overcome that in anything digital?
Yeah, no, I love that. And, I'm thinking about like the FAs that I've had good experiences with in recent times. The one that I ended up calling for help on that IPO situation, who now manages my portfolio, or at least a part of it, was a guy I met through church, right? So it was like, hey, we have this common association, he's well liked. He's kind of like like almost like a kind of a gray hair mentor in a way to me. But not just financially, but more in like, 360 life, in a way. So I felt like he was a guy who had added value to me before he ever asked me for the business. And when that day came, when I needed help, I knew who to call. Another interesting one was a guy reached out to me who is in my fraternity, but we didn't go to the same school or anything like that. He was just like, hey, man, I'm a Sigma Chi. I'm coming out to San Diego. And I was like, cool, man. My wife manages the money and we're all set. And he's like, nah, man, I don't want to, I just want to invite you out to golf. And I was like, oh, that's cool. So I'm like, yeah, I'll golf. And then, he's a guy that I'm talking to about some other things now too. So I feel like, that's like, what I call like layers of influence, right? Like the Sigma Chi thing is this, there's a lot of Sigma Chis out there, but it's at least a baseline. Where I'm like, okay, like this guy at least was measured to like a standard that I'm familiar with, and I can, have some comfortability with that. I think the number one guy at LPL is a Sigma Chi too. The guy from Texas, he's like totally like nondescript dude. He's like he's a big burly guy. You might know who I'm talking about. I just remember meeting him at that financial advisor summit that I did the training for, and he like drove a pickup truck, not a super like flashy guy, but he was like the number one guy at LPL or something like that.
Yeah, you've got to be authentic, and whatever your personality is, like you're going to find other people that are going to latch onto that. I remember working at MetLife with one of our financial advisors that he wanted to make his entire LinkedIn profile about fly fishing, and he got clients off of that. Like you have some kind of common interest, if it's a fraternity, if it's a hobby, whatever that is, you can get in front of them. And you brought up a really great point too of like that salesperson mentality of, I got this person's name, I know who Dylan is, I'm going to call him up and I want to set an appointment. But it's so much of that value add of just giving. Be a giver first. Don't ask for something. Go, hey, Dylan, I saw that you're an entrepreneur. Here's, an ebook that I think that you should know about growing your wealth while being an entrepreneur, or whatever that is that's relatable to them. And I think that you're going to see a bigger gain there. I heard, oh gosh, I can picture him. I cannot remember his name, that I heard at a speaker, or that I heard him speak at a conference years ago. And he said, it's kind of like on LinkedIn, you connect with somebody and they instantly start trying to sell you. He's like, if we met in person, that's like me going to like stick out my hand for you to shake it and you try kissing me on the mouth. Was like, whoa, we are moving way too quick here. And so you've got to approach the same way of like, when you meet that new person, like you don't want to be like a laggard, like, oh yeah, I'll follow up with them in a couple weeks, but being more natural with it, even though there's so much out there with automation and technology and everything, you still want to be a human as far as like timing and what you tell them, and just deliver that value first.
Yeah, no, I really love that. So I want to briefly side tour to something you said prior. So you mentioned that you were in the fitness industry before you got into the finance space. And I noticed that you're also an avid CrossFit guy. How important is exercise to you as a creative? Because at the end of the day, I believe that all marketers are creatives. And, I just got done with I had to take a 35-minute run before I did this interview just because I had already woken up early and I needed the energy. So like, what does exercise do for you for not only your creative process, but just how you stack your day?
Mm-hmm. And thank you for bringing up CrossFit, because we've been talking for 20 minutes and this is the longest I've ever gone without telling somebody that I do CrossFit. So I was starting to sweat. Like, I got to tell them.
Yeah, the two things that I think there's a joke. If a vegan were in a room and a CrossFitter were in a room, who would say what they like to do first?
It's unfortunately true. Yeah. But
Hey, that's another place. If I was an FA, I'd go, network in the CrossFit community if that was something I was pumped for.
I mean, you're onto something there. It's a close-knit community. I think my entire box like shared the same realtor, and it was just like, oh, you need to work with so and so. Like, it's just a good referral, and also, it's not cheap. It's an affluent area,
Yep.
and you got that common, just another thing in common with somebody. So yeah, I actually think that is a fantastic idea. But for me personally, like just the same way that you talked about going on a run, I used to go and work out at lunchtime because it would give me energy. It's like, okay, coffee in the morning gets me through the morning, and then I need to go do something, get those endorphins, get the blood flowing. And when I work out at home, I often bring my laptop out in the garage with me, and I'm like, oh, I just had an idea for this. Let me pause my my Metcon that I'm doing and go, track down and document what this idea was. So it's crucial. It gives you that creative space. It's also like you kind of have to step away from everything to revisit it and just be re-energized.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I love that you mentioned the like idea capture because I was listening to the Tim Ferriss podcast, and I love his podcast because he's so deliberate and not just like bringing out the insights of like people's IP, but actually like bringing out the insights of their process. So he talked in a recent episode, I forget who he was talking about, but he was like, yeah, man, like how do you idea capture? And like a particular person was using Asana and another guy used Google Notes and whatever. Like today, when I was on my run, in 35 minutes, I came up with 2 ideas for what I think are going to be pretty banger, like blog posts, LinkedIn posts. And there's a company here in San Diego called ClickUp, and I have no deal with them or anything like that, but I just find it like, it's like a great app where it's like a great task management app where I can just pull it up, hit the button, either do a voice memo or type a little note, because I don't know about you, but I lose ideas if I don't get them if I don't get them into a flow. Like they're like here today, gone tomorrow, especially when I'm exercising, which is when I think I come up with some of my best ideas. So thank you for talking about that process piece, because I think that's like a great point to hit home on.
Yeah, that we use our team here, our marketing team, we use a virtual whiteboard. And when I was selecting that software application, one of them was I needed to be mobile friendly so that I can do that exact same thing. And we have one of our whiteboards that we use is called Ideas and Inspiration. It's like if something hits you, if you see something or you think of something, throw it on there. Because yeah, you're right. Like I can't tell you the amount of, I don't know if they're good ideas that I've had that just, they were in my head and then just floated out. So I want to get it down somewhere. Or we use Slack and I'll say, hey, Allison, don't need any action on this, but remember movie credits. And then if you say that to me, I'll remember what my idea was.
Great. And you know what I love about that digital whiteboard idea is it does 2 things. One, it encourages ideas to come from anywhere, regardless of seniority. So you as the CMO might come up with the idea, or maybe like an intern might come up with an idea, and everybody's kind of like the ideation process. And the other thing I love about it is it provides a forum for maybe team members that are less aggressive, that might not say something in a meeting, but they're like, oh, like, dude, I can just pop up this app and hit a button. That's a lot less intimidating than maybe, being an aggressive person in a meeting.
Yeah, that is so true, that it gives that space. And like, when I came in here last summer, I said, one of my leadership principles is I don't care whose idea it is. We're going to go with the best one. I'll just take credit for it. But um, but like I want to encourage that. And really, this is an odd like translation, but what's his name? Matt Schur from The Office and Parks and Rec and The Good Place. And I listened to a podcast with him, and he was talking about how like this like joke bag of like, oh, let's throw out all the things that humans would do when they lose their keys or something. And like they're just like ripping things off, and they're like, okay, we like this one, this one, this one. I was like, I want to have a space like that for us when we're having those creative sessions to go like, there's no bad ideas, because that can be like the kernel of something bigger.
Yeah, that's cool. It's like, it's all about the insight, and you never know what's going to come from the insight.
Yeah. Yeah. So don't be afraid if you think it's like a borderline idea, because someone might go, oh yeah, and we can do this. And then you're getting to a great, like we did an awesome fourth quarter campaign last year. And I think if I processed out like how we got from here to like the final product, it was just really cool.
Yeah, no, very cool. All right, so I want to get a little bit into IAA and LPL.
Mm-hmm.
So you obviously jumped ship after marketing with LPL for several years over to IAA. What
Mm-hmm.
made you decide to make the leap? What was the attraction for the role?
Yeah. So I guess it's a little bit of my odd personality that when I was meeting with a new hire recently, we were talking about career journey. I go, you know what? I just realized the last 5 roles I've had have been brand new. And I don't know if it's like making things from scratch, like just to make it harder. I don't know what it is, but that was one interesting thing to me was there was never a CMO seat here at Independent Advisor Alliance. So that was one part. The other part was I have a mentor in the industry outside of LPL that I was talking to, and I shared more about like what I was thinking for my own journey and what I wanted to see and like be involved in. And he was saying like, it's not another, large broker dealer or anything. I think that you would be best fit if you were in a CMO seat of an RIA. And the next day I got on LinkedIn and our CEO had posted a CMO role. And I was like, it's meant to be.
There you go.
And I know because IAA and LPL are so close with each other. I've known a bunch of people here. I've known IAA. It's one of the most respected and largest large enterprises out there. And it was a no-brainer.
Now, on that note, I saw shortly after you arrived, LPL took a minority stake in IAA. Was that just kismet, or did that have a little bit to do? Did any brokering of that deal come on your side, or was that relationship already existed?
I would love to take credit for it, but no, I had no involvement. When I was thinking about this earlier, I was like, oh, I'm going to make some kind of joke. Like, yeah, I came up with the idea. And then like, I came over, I was like, wait, no, I'm like the throw in. It's like, I'm a big sports fan. It's like, yeah, we'll give you a first round draft pick, but you got to take this bad contract with you. I was like, oh, I'm the bad contract. I don't want to make that analogy, but no, it was all coincidental. It was in the works for a long time. And it's a really exciting endeavor to, further the partnership with LPL.
That's cool. Well, seems like it was good timing. So, you've been active on social talking about AI, and I think you probably provide a unique opportunity to talk about AI because you're in a regulated marketing field where you are under more rules than the average marketer to embrace these new technologies. So, how are you seeing financial services marketers leverage AI? And what are some of the things that you need to be wary of, given that you're in a regulated arena?
I'm so glad that you brought this up. When I was doing we do a quarterly State of the Alliance video for our advisors, and I gave a little bit like things that are on my watch list, and my number one was AI this year, and it's something I've become very, very interested in, and can share a little bit of that journey. is I use it more for idea generation, confirmation, and copywriting. I'm not the greatest writer. I can eventually figure it out, but there's ways to be more efficient. But with like idea generation, we've got a new program that's rolling out, and I was like, I want to get some ideas, like some inspiration to just go off of for, naming this new solution, and typed everything out. It was like, give me 10 names. And I was like, I took like, I think I got 10 of them, and they all had, 3 or 4 word phrases. I was like, oh, I like that one and that one and that one, and I'm going to take that and combine them into something else. Or like, it was kind of like that kernel of an idea to go from. The other one is just validation, like looking at writing an agreement to use our paid services. Like, okay, what should we consider in our agreement? It's like lists out 10 things. I was like, oh, okay, cool, we got everything. Like just confirmation. And then the last one is the copywriting, which I see as a big advantage, especially for financial advisors. But here's where it gets into the learning part. You've got to learn how to use it, especially like the name brand, like the Kleenex version is just ChatGPT. What's your tone and your voice? Like, what do you want to be known as? Do you want it to be, I had one advisor years ago that I worked with that wanted everything to be very, I've got my tie, I've got my leather bound books behind me, I want to write like that. Versus another person that everything had emojis and exclamation points and, started every sentence with so, comma, whatever. It was more casual. You've got to learn how to use it and give the prompts to be able to replicate what your tone and voice are. So I've had big success with using text form of AI. The other side of it with video and image creation, I haven't had that luck. Really, the only benefit we've had with it so far is we've had a lot of laughs in our Slack channel. It's like, how are they sitting on a chair with 2 legs? Or why do they have 7 fingers? Or, I know it's going to get figured out. Probably if somebody watches this later on this year, they're like, what is he talking about? Whoever perfected it between Adobe, Meta, Amazon, like every huge company is getting really invested into AI. So it's not going away. So you've got to learn it. Don't be that laggard. I'm sure there was somebody hundreds of years ago, like, you use an umbrella? Like that's insane. And then it's just accepted. That's just what you use. It's going to be the same thing with AI. It's not taking anyone's job, at least right now. It's actually helping us, because like that creative brain space that we talked about, like, go outsource this like tedious stuff to AI so that you can go focus over here.
Yeah, no, I love that. I was, I'm always skeptical of like, oh, AI is going to take our jobs as salespeople and marketers. I tend to be on the side that you're speaking of as essentially AI is basically going to allow us to do things that used to be really annoying and painful and tedious, and speed them up. It's funny you mentioned Adobe. They were a client of mine for 7 years. And I got to attend Adobe Sneaks every year, which is where they kind of showcase the things that are coming down the R&D pipeline. And whenever they showed something, half the room would like gasp because it was like, oh my God, this is going to take my job away. This isn't really, they'll do like content aware fill where it like takes like a telephone pole out of a video. And they're like, that's what I do for a living. I take telephone poles out of videos. But when you can take telephone poles out of a video with the click of a button, then you can go and like actually make better lower thirds or design better transitions, do better edits or do better color correcting, like the things that AI maybe can't do yet. And they probably can do all those things now too, because it's been a minute since I worked on the account. But I agree with you. It's something that I think FAs should probably be aware of that I think would be really cool. I was listening to a podcast the other day about sales prep, and let's just call this meeting prep in general. I'm not at the point where I'm willing to outsource my podcast prep because I feel like reading and listening to podcasts and watching videos with guests like you ahead of time, I feel like I get to know you.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time I get on the screen with you, I feel a level of comfortability where the conversation is more natural.
Mm-hmm.
So I need that. I need to trick my brain into the idea that I know you in order for me to have a successful podcast. So I can't outsource that yet to AI. But what I could do as just another business development guy is if I have a meeting coming up with a new prospect, I can go into AI and say, hey, tell me 10 things that I should know about this person
Mm-hmm.
that are important. And it's like their kids do this and they've been, they like these nonprofits and they've been awarded these things. So then I've got a bunch of talking points that sounds like I went and did 10 hours of research when all I did was hit an AI button. So I think that would be really powerful for FAs, especially like, hey, you got a new person coming up, like you can accelerate, you can take a lot more meetings if you kind of outsource your meeting prep to AI.
Yeah, it's going to be really cool to see how different, I'm thinking about it from that marketing standpoint, but how other parts of the industry can be positively impacted of expediting or just taking out that tedious stuff, like removing the telephone poles. I have to reach out to an old colleague that was on a graphic design team, and he didn't really talk a whole lot. But one day I was walking by and he looked a little stressed. I was like, "How you doing?" And he was zoomed in on someone's teeth and he was whitening somebody's teeth. And he was like, "I went to college for this." I was like, "Yeah, maybe now you could just do that with a click of a button."
Yep. I love it. All right, cool. So I want to pop into, my segment of the marketing channel real quick and get your take. So we as an agency, we're really pivoting and leaning hard into B2B influencer marketing, especially with the idea that LinkedIn is becoming more of a social network this year than ever before. You've got LinkedIn top voices. You've got blue check LinkedIn influencers that are essentially verified folks from LinkedIn. But then you just have a bunch of other people that are building large audiences in and around particular subject matter on LinkedIn using modality like video, podcasts. This podcast right now is going out to my LinkedIn audience live. What are your thoughts on leveraging LinkedIn as an influencer marketing platform and a social media platform versus what it's maybe been traditionally, which is a place where your online resume lives or sales guys go to prospect?
Yeah, I remember that like 15 years ago. I was like, wait, what is this for? Like, you just want to like brag about what certification you got or look for a job or something, compared to what it is now, which I think is really exciting, and picking up from those other social networks where if you think like influencer, it's more like TikTok and Instagram. So how do we bring that to the professional world with, you can see their whole history of where they worked and who they're connected with and all that. So I think there's a huge opportunity there. I think that our industry, I think within financial services, is a little bit behind the times there, but each person, each financial advisor can kind of become their own influencer as far as like thought leadership and education. And it goes back to our earlier part of the conversation of delivering value before asking for anything. So it can be anything of 401k contribution limits have changed. Here's what it means for you, and doing like a free webinar or something like that. And it's hard because you have to, it's like trying to like, if you've ever had a boss go, "Hey, we have this thing, and then we want to, can you make it go viral? Can you like click the viral button so that like everybody sees it, and then like they're talking about it on the news?" Like whatever you do, like there's no science to it really. It is, how do you get that growth? And really it's just planting that seed and taking time. There's people that have perfected it. I've seen a couple of advisors on Twitter that have like scheduled like real-time chats where they're asking questions to their audience, and then they're retweeting. I'll still say I don't even know what the word is now.
Something.
Yeah, sharing whatever kind of content that's out there is developing that network. And really it goes to consistency. Same thing with like the fitness stuff is like, I
gotta get the reps in.
Yeah, I can't go like run one time and was like, why do I not run a 5:30 mile? Like, this is so weird. I ran once, or I ate a salad yesterday. Like, where's my six pack? It takes time. So people
Yeah.
are going to be able to to develop their own influencer network, but then it might be strategic partnerships of either some of those big players that are in the space of reputable vendors or whatever to either have like on a podcast or a video or some kind of co-branded thing. There's big opportunity out there. Have you seen anything successful in the financial industry when it comes to that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think you're right. I think the best FAs, like, they do a splattering of like adding value and building credibility through thought leadership, but then they also add like a little personality to it, to where like, it's funny you mentioned going viral. And yeah, I worked at a viral video agency before I worked at an influencer agency. And I used to do a talk called "Make Them Cry, Make Them Laugh, or Make Them Ask, Is This Real?" And there is a formula for going viral, and it's not a guarantee, but it does give you the best chance. And that's, can you make somebody laugh? Can you make somebody cry? And can you make them ask the question, was what I just watched, or was what I just read, or was what I just experienced real? The real part, I don't think, would be applicable for the financial advisor space. I don't want anybody questioning the authenticity of the things that you're putting out. But I think the first two do apply. Can you make them laugh, and can you make them cry? Somebody who I feel like does an incredibly good job in what I would call the financial world, maybe not financial services specifically, is Dave Ramsey, right? He's a guy that basically teaches people to get out of debt, which is an amazing opportunity to get out of debt. Like, when you achieve that, it's like, I remember the day when I did Dave Ramsey, I woke up one day and I was $75,000 in debt. And I was like, I gotta fix this. And one of the things that I remember doing is I said, you know what? I'm not going to listen to CNBC. I'm not going to read the Wall Street Journal, because I haven't earned the privilege to read any of these financial publications, because I couldn't act on the information even if I wanted to. So I'm going to not allow myself to listen to financial media until I get myself out of debt. And then that was like my gift to myself once I got through it, is like, okay, now I can read these things and actually take action on it. But the other part that Dave does is, once people get out of debt, he invites them into their studio and they do like a debt-free scream or whatever in the studio. And that's an incredibly emotional, impactful moment in that person's life. And Dave Ramsey, he partners with a network of financial advisors, but I think every financial advisor has the opportunity to tell those same stories with their clients. Some clients don't want to talk about, their personal journey. But if my FA helped me get out of a situation and helped me, save up enough money to buy a boat, or save up enough money to launch a business, or save up enough money to buy my dream Airbnb, if he was part of that story and he asked me, he's like, man, that's so cool, can I like celebrate that to my audience? Hell yeah, I would do that with him. I would do a video, or like take a picture with my FA in front of my new boat. Be like, yeah, man, we got it done, So, all those stories, I think that could be pretty impactful.
Yeah, and there was a big shift last year with, we're in a regulated industry. What we can say, where we can say it, is a change to the rules around testimonials and recommendations. Like, if you go on to 2 years ago, if you went into an advisor's Google My Business page, if they had reviews or stars, they were not compliant. And now, as those rules have evolved, now you can share more of those. There's certain things that you have to do. I don't know all of the rules there, but yeah, you can do a lot more of that, like sharing of a client's story in your marketing. And to your viral formula, that's definitely right. Like, when I worked at MetLife, it was working with a lot of financial advisors, but they also worked on in the insurance side. And I mean, insurance is hard because it's all just fear tactics. It's what's going to happen to your family if you die tomorrow, which that brings on the tears.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that would be my advice. Obviously check with your marketing department and make sure you're in compliance, but, tell great stories with your clients, and clients want recognition when they achieve milestones. And if you can be part of that storytelling experience, that's powerful.
That's the keyword, storytelling. Not enough people use that. We have this feature. I'm a financial planner. Like, actually tell me that story of what you do, what that pain point was, and how you created that solution, and then what they felt. That can really pull at people.
Yeah, no, I love it. All right, buddy. David, we're getting down to the final strokes here. What are you most excited about the future with your role over at IAA?
Oh, gosh. So much. I mean, I came in here last summer. Like I said, I was the first person to be in this kind of seat. So there's a huge opportunity. So it's really just prioritizing everything. But we have such a great team and resources like the LPL deal that you talked about, and being able to then reinvest that capital into our advisors, either what we do or doing the similar kind of model of being able to give them some kind of capital boost. So if they need to hire somebody or new technology or whatever, so that's going to be really taking off this year. But on the marketing side of it, we've got a huge opportunity for innovation, and where we're talking like technology and how we're working together, because part of my responsibility is making our brand visible so that more advisors join IAA. And then once they're here, making sure that they're informed about all of our amazing programs and services, because they're all small business owners, and they're no longer a financial advisor. They're now a small business owner, and they have to worry about employee benefits, to marketing, to operations, to asset management. That's what we exist for. So being able to share more of what we do to help advisors, and our team. We've got a fantastic team of marketers here. They're all a bunch of Swiss Army knives. Because I mean, this in marketing, like, it's so wide between how you distribute content, to like copywriting, to graphic design, to video, to also all of the suite of things that we offer. And I couldn't ask for a better team here. And I would say the thing that I'm most excited about is just getting all those things to work together. Our brand, our mission statement, which we have, well, I can't even say it was all done before me. We're just hitting 10 years now, but starting with our CEO all the way down of like how we act within the building, how we work with our advisors. And then my job is, how do we get that out to everybody else? And I'm really excited for that opportunity. So this is going to be a huge year of growth for us. That's what we're focused on. That was what the LPL deal was about, to get that capital to do those things that we want to do, and invest them in those right places to get more advisors in, so we can help them out with their practice, that can help their clients, or just strengthening our brand overall.
Yeah, I love it. Anything else you want to plug before we sign off?
Ooh, no, I think I think I've talked a lot, so I really appreciate the opportunity. This was really fun. This flew by.
Yeah, totally, man. All right. Well, for all of you who are watching at home, if you enjoyed our conversation today, David, don't forget to subscribe, follow wherever you're listening or watching this podcast. And if you give us a review, that actually helps us find a larger audience. And most importantly, if there is a marketer or an FA out there somewhere in your network who you think would benefit from the conversation that I had with David today, don't forget to share the show. So thanks so much for coming on, David.
Awesome. Glad to be here.
All right. We'll see you next time.
All right.